Welcome to The Explainer. I'm really thrilled you're joining us today because we're diving into a topic that is just so deeply relatable. It's based on this profoundly personal essay by a writer named Salima, and we're going to explore this phenomenon that honestly almost all of us experience, but we kind of rarely stop to think about. Why is it that advocating for our own desires, like literally just speaking up for what we actually want, why does that feel so incredibly difficult? It's this quiet little habit that holds us back, it costs us opportunities, and it just drains our energy. But as we'll see through the brilliant insights in today's source material, it's absolutely a habit we have the power to break. So, right off the bat, let's just put Salima's central question front and center. Why do so many of us struggle to ask for what we want? I mean, even when we clearly know exactly what we need, why does it feel like there's this invisible, physical barrier stopping the words from leaving our mouths? It's a completely universal friction. And to figure out how to overcome it, well, we first have to understand where that invisible wall actually comes from.
Which brings us to Section 1, the struggle to ask.
The source essay points out that from a really early age, through movies, TV, books, school, women are shown extremely narrow images of how they should sound and act. We're expected to be agreeable, accommodating, pleasant, and, easy to deal with. And these aren't just polite suggestions, right? They become ingrained survival mechanisms. We basically learn that to be accepted, we have to make ourselves small and just easy to manage. And this creates a totally impossible trap. On one side, we have the script. We soften our requests, we hesitate, we over-explain everything we need just to survive those expectations. We instinctively say, oh, it's okay, when it is absolutely not okay. Why? Well, because of the judgment on the other side. The second a woman steps outside that script, she faces the harsh reality of being labeled demanding or difficult, too ambitious, loud, or quote-unquote not ladylike. It's a massive lose-lose situation that essentially teaches us it's just safer to stay quiet.
So let's look at Section 2, the fear of no.
The author notes that for a really long time, she was terrified to ask for things because she imagined some catastrophic outcome. But look at this reframing of that terrifying two-letter word. A no is not an emergency. It is literally just information that allows you to move on. Think about that. That is a massive paradigm shift. When we stop viewing no as this devastating personal rejection and just see it as actionable data, the fear really loses its power. And actually, the author realized that her own fear of hearing no was exactly what made her so terrified to say no to other people.
That leads perfectly into Section 3, the cost of compassion.
To really illustrate this cost, the author shares this incredibly poignant story from her late teens. Out of this deep sense of empathy, she took in an abandoned older girl and brought her into her family home. But just a few months later, things took a turn. The guest became hostile, actively gossiping about the family in their own neighborhood. Yet, and this is the wild part, they endured this hostile situation for years without ever asking her to leave. They basically just waited until the guest eventually left on her own accord. This right here is what the fear of saying and hearing no does in the real world. It just completely erodes our boundaries to our own detriment.
And the crucial takeaway we can pull from her story is this powerful realization. Compassion without boundaries can cost too much. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being kind, but as the author learned the hard way, kindness should never ever require you to abandon yourself. By trying so hard to avoid conflict, she completely missed the opportunity to protect her own family's peace.
Okay, moving on to Section 4, a lesson at Starbucks.
So the author is at a Starbucks, and there's this distracted barista who is ignoring one line of customers to take the author's order instead. Out of nowhere, another woman speaks up. She clearly corrects the barista and just asks what she's doing. The author realized that what unsettled her so deeply in that moment was seeing a woman actively ask, demand, and insist. And the thing is, she wasn't being rude or aggressive. She just clearly knew what she expected and was completely willing to say it out loud.
The real breakthrough actually came after she left the coffee shop. She realized her discomfort wasn't even about the other woman's behavior. It came from this shocking realization that she, too, had a permission slip to act exactly like that. Permission to speak up, to question things that felt wrong, to ask for better treatment, or to just take up space. Seeing another woman do it without apologizing, well, it kind of held up a mirror to her own self-imposed limitations.
Which brings us to Section 5, building the asking muscle.
So how do we translate this into real-world action? The author shares a great recent story about getting her induction stove repaired. Step 1, the handyman comes over, takes a look, and sets his fee. Now normally, the author might have just paid it quietly. But step 2, she decides to flex the muscle.
She actually compares part prices online and actively asks for a discount. Step 3, the handyman flat out refuses. He says no. But, and here is the magic of step 4, because she was already in the flow of asking questions, she just goes ahead and asks about the warranty. And guess what? She uncovers 3 months of coverage that he hadn't even voluntarily shared. So why does this stove story matter so much? Because her initial goal, right, was getting a financial discount, and technically she failed. He said no, but the real victory was proving to herself that she could survive that no. She became the woman who asks. It proves that success in setting boundaries isn't always about getting a yes. It's simply about having the courage to make the request in the first place and realizing that, hey, hearing no did not destroy her.
And that leads perfectly into our final section, section 6. Just ask anyway.
Let's quickly summarize the core truths here that can dismantle those crippling illusions. The reality is, when you ask, you aren't forcing a yes, you are literally just giving the other person an opportunity to answer. The answer is usually just going to be yes, no, or something in between. And you're going to be fine regardless. Remember, a no does not diminish your worth. By asking, you aren't being difficult or demanding. You are simply, finally participating in your own life.
So what should we all start doing today? We need to stop softening the message and start flexing that muscle. Ask for the discount, ask about the salary, ask what's included, ask for better terms, or ask for what you actually paid for. Ask for clarification when things are vague. Ask for more when you need it, and hey, ask for less when you're completely overwhelmed. Ask for time, ask for help.
Because if the answer is no, you just take a breath and you keep going. You are not greedy or difficult for seeking clarity and fairness. So I want to leave you with this single, powerful directive from the author and a little question for you to ponder. Ask anyway. What is one thing you have been absolutely terrified to ask for this week? And what incredible space might you open up in your life if you just decided to ask anyway? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer. Start flexing that muscle, and I'll see you next time.